Let me tell you about the most expensive promotion a company never gave. A few years ago, I sat in an annual review that has really stuck with me. I was taking over responsibility of a team, and the incumbent team manager shared with a member of that team during their review that they were already operating at the next level. They deserved the promotion to the next level, but he wasn't going to promote them or even put them forward. And I remember sitting in that review just fuming, thinking, why on earth would you say that to someone? A few weeks later, once I inherited that team, I was a woman on a mission to get this sorted, and that team member rightly promoted. So over the next 3 months, I fought so hard to get that promotion approved. Eventually, I got the green light. Well, sort of. The business agreed to the title, but not the pay rise. That would have to wait another 6 months. It was total horseshit, and I was so disappointed. The day I was finally allowed to tell her that, she handed in her notice. And you know what? I don't blame her. In fact, I was actually really bloody proud of her, because by that point, it wasn't really about the promotion anymore. She'd stopped believing the business meant what it said. A few months later, we hired someone externally. Oh, it was so frustrating. It was the exact level and on the exact salary the previous team member had been asking for. And look, that person was great in their own right, but they didn't know the business, they didn't know the team, they didn't have the relationships that previous team member had spent years building. So trying to save money ended up costing the business far more. And at the time, I thought this was a story about promotion, but looking back, I think it was a story about psychology. Because what I've learned after spending years on both sides of the table, asking for promotions and pay rises, but also managing teams and fighting to get them approved or sharing feedback on why they're not there yet, is that promotion conversations are rarely about promotions. They're about recognition, fairness, and trust. And the biggest mistake I see from both employees and employers is that they're often answering completely different questions. Employees are asking, am I valued? Businesses are asking, is this the right investment right now? And they aren't the same conversations. And once I understood that, promotion conversations started to make a lot more sense. Just a quick pause. I am so hot. We're having a heat wave in London. It's about 33 degrees. And this glow, this is like NYX body oil. This is just natural sweat. So I just wanted to flag that. Okay, back to the video. In this video, I want to unpack the psychology behind promotions, why they become so emotionally charged, and the 4 conversations that are hidden inside almost every promotion discussion. Because if you understand how promotions work, not just procedurally, but psychologically, you'll have much better conversations, whether you're the person asking for one or the person deciding one. Now, why do promotions feel so personal? Let's start with the employee's perspective. If you've ever left a pay review feeling frustrated, overlooked, or completely deflated, I want to suggest something. You probably weren't upset about the money. Hang on a minute, that's probably not quite unfair. You were likely upset, but you were also upset about what the money represented. The recognition, fairness, and I guess that sense of feeling valued that I mentioned earlier. There is a brilliant theory in organisational psychology called equity theory, developed by psychologist John Stacey Adams. The premise is simple. We don't judge our salary in isolation, we judge it in comparison to other people. So rather than simply, how much do I earn? We ask, how much do I earn compared to someone doing similar work? I experienced this myself. When I worked at Maid, I discovered that 2 male colleagues, both with smaller remits than me, were earning more. And I found it out because one person accidentally let it slip and the other, a contract, was shared by mistake. Nothing about my salary changed, yet overnight my feelings about it completely changed. Because suddenly it wasn't about the money anymore, it was about fairness. And that is exactly what equity theory predicts. It's why 2 people can both receive a $5,000 pay rise and one walks away delighted, while another walks away feeling completely undervalued. Humans don't just seek reward, we seek fairness too. So if you're preparing for a promotion conversation, please don't build an emotional argument, build a business case. Instead of saying, I've worked really hard, show how your responsibilities have grown, share the problems that you've solved, the commercial value you've created, discuss the projects you've led and the measurable impact you've had. And please, for the love of God, don't mention your rent going up or an increase in your gym membership cost. Yes, that might be playing on your mind, but your employer is not responsible for that. Now, let's swap sides of the table, because one of the biggest gifts my career has given me is seeing this from both perspectives. Becoming a manager changed how I thought about promotions. People think promotions are about fairness, and I really wish they were, but often they're about prioritization. Most businesses don't have an unlimited promotion budget. They'll have a fixed pot that has to be split up. So instead of managers asking who deserves a promotion, they're often asking, look, if we can only promote 3 people this year, who should they be? And those are completely different conversations. I've worked with brilliant people who have absolutely deserved a promotion, people who were already operating at the next level, people that I fought incredibly hard for. But sometimes there wasn't enough budget. Sometimes headcount wasn't there or the salary bands hadn't moved. Sometimes another part of the business had greater commercial need. I hold my hands up, none of that necessarily feels fair, but it is often the reality inside organisations. And understanding that doesn't necessarily make it easier, but it does make it easier to navigate and less like a personal attack. Now, before anyone thinks I'm defending businesses, let me be clear. I think organisations make some enormous mistakes here too. One of the biggest is underestimating the importance of recognition, because there's another concept in psychology called the psychological contract. It's not the contract you sign when you joined, it's the invisible agreement. It's the one that sounds something like, if I work hard, if I grow, if I step up, you'll recognise this. When that unwritten agreement feels broken, people aren't just disappointed, they become engaged, or they might leave. And if I dive into that a little bit more, I don't think most people leave because they weren't promoted. I'd say it's more that they leave because nobody helped them understand why. Silence allows for people to rightly or wrongly fill in the gaps. And often the stories we tell ourselves are almost always worse than the truth. Story of my life. As a manager, your job is to create clarity, not just deliver decisions. It's to fight for your team, explain what's happening behind the scenes, be transparent where you can, because people can cope with disappointment, but what they struggle with is uncertainty. Now, one of the biggest things I've learned is that we often think we're having one conversation when actually we're having four. Yep, four. Someone walks into a meeting and says, I'd like to talk about a promotion. Okay, let's face it, that's probably not the opening line. But promotions aren't really just about promotions. Hidden inside that conversation are four completely different conversations. And unless both people know which one they're having, it's very easy to leave frustrated. Conversation one, money. Sometimes what someone really means is, I don't think my salary reflects the value I'm creating. That's not actually a promotion conversation, it's one about pay. You might love your job, you might not want any more responsibility, but you simply believe your compensation no longer reflects your contribution. Those are different conversations. Second conversation, recognition. Sometimes what someone is really asking is, do you actually see what I'm contributing? This is where managers often underestimate the power of acknowledgement. Not every brilliant piece of work deserves a promotion, but every brilliant piece of work does deserve recognition. And when that recognition disappears, people can sometimes assume they are no longer valued. Conversation 3, responsibility. Sometimes people aren't necessarily chasing a title. They might be chasing opportunity or saying, I'm ready for something bigger. Give me the bigger client. Let me lead a project. Let me mentor someone or present to the board. Trust me with more. Sometimes the quickest way to retain someone is simply by helping them grow. Fourth and final conversation, readiness. Now, this is usually the conversation the business is having. Not have they earned it, but do we genuinely believe they'll succeed at the next level? Now, notice that is a future-focused question and not a past-focused one. This is where I slightly disagree with a lot of the advice you hear online. People often say, you need to already be doing the next job before you get promoted. I call absolute bullshit on that. I really don't buy it. Yes, you need to demonstrate capability and you need to show potential. But if you're already doing 100% of the next role without the title, without the salary or the support, then something has gone wrong. A promotion shouldn't simply recognise the work you've already been doing. It should create space for you to grow. Otherwise, it's not really a promotion. It's just very delayed recognition. So what should you do? If you're an employee, stop asking, do I deserve a promotion? And instead ask, which conversation am I actually trying to have? Is this about money? Is it about recognition? Perhaps it's about responsibility or readiness. Once you know the answer, you'll have a much better conversation with your manager. You can say, I'd like to talk about whether my salary still reflects my responsibilities, or I'd love more stretch opportunities before we even discuss promotion. Or maybe even, can we talk about what readiness for the next level actually looks like? Those are far more productive conversations than simply saying, I think I deserve a promotion. And if you're a manager, don't let annual reviews become the first time someone hears where they stand. Recognition shouldn't happen once a year. Feedback shouldn't happen once a year, and neither should honesty. One of the best things you can give someone isn't always a promotion. Sometimes it's clarity, it might be context, or you could give them a plan. When people understand what's happening, they are far more likely to stay engaged, even if the answer today is no. But the biggest lesson I've learned is this. Promotion conversations aren't just commercial decisions, they are psychological ones. Employees are often asking, am I valued? Businesses are often asking, where is the best place to invest? Both are valid and they matter, but if we only answer one question, we create frustration on both sides. So the next time you find yourself saying, I want a promotion, stop and ask yourself, which conversation are you actually trying to have? Because the clearer you are about the conversation you're trying to have, the more likely you are to leave the room with what you actually need. I've sat on both sides of the table. I have asked for promotions, fought for promotions. I've had to say yes, I've had to say no. And I truly believe the best promotion conversations are the ones where everyone leaves understanding each other. That's it for this week. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, it really does help. Until next time, keep careering.